Welcome to the channel, everyone. So I'm just going to get right into this. This is kind of a message to Games Workshop, if they ever do watch this. But anyways, I don't want people to boycott your company. First off, that's the end game for these people that do this kind of stuff. They don't like you, Games Workshop. They want you in the dust. And that is the truth. I'll show you why. But anyways, no real good-hearted woman, right, likes to be pandered to, right? So right now you're ticking off your female fan base and your male fan base, both of them, okay? And it's not because of woman, right? It's because you're trying to gaslight and lie and then go behind our backs to change things, right? Now, this is why I say take the wikis with a grain of salt, right? And yes, I have zero say whether females belong in the custodies or not. I've only been doing this for a year, but it has been one of the best years of my life doing this, right? And learning about Warhammer 40k. This is the problem that people have, right? So it says these men are bodyguards. Now they changed it. This morning it said warriors here, but they changed this, but they forgot to change something else, I'm guessing. So we see, and the keepers of as many secrets, or the custodies, is an elite cadre of genetically engineered transhuman warriors who are even more potent in combat than the Adeptus Astartes. So let's go here. The Custodes is an elite cadre of genetically engineered transhuman male and female warriors who are even more potent in combat than the Adeptus Astartes. So you tried to go behind our backs. You know, women don't like that either. Just saying, right? And I want to show you, you can't let these people tell you you're not diverse enough. Right here with your own lore, this is, you can kind of say, perfect diversity between men and women, or even other colors and stuff, right? Right here. An Imperial Saint. An Imperial Saint is one of the men and women, and this is good right here because there's no color attached either, right? And I want to say this too. Your fans get called misogynists, but yet a lot of them, their favorite army are the Battle Sisters. So don't let them tell you what is and what isn't. These people do not care about your company. 100%. They don't care about it. They'll go to the next company when you're in the dust. Right? Let's go even more. Saint Celestine. Saint Celestine is a revered living saint of the Adeptus Sororitas, Order of the Martyred Lady, a being of incredible, of incredible psychic power and faith, believed by many in the Imperial Man to have been resurrected from death many times as a tool of the Emperor of mankind himself. So the Emperor uses women. He's got the Battle Sisters and all that, right? Sisters of Silence. Not only that, these guys, a lot of these guys are women too. The Calidus Temple. They use polymorphine, right? And they could change shape. These are bad mamma jammas. So, the problem isn't females being in there. The problem is when you start changing huge things, right, that are in the lore. Why don't these people ever create, maybe it's a new female faction? Just, just to put this out there. And they're kind of like the Space Marines, battle sisters. But, let's say they go through a genetic change, just like the Space Marines, kind of. But they're the only ones to get into, let's say, Slaanesha's realm. I don't know how lore accurate that would be, but how come they don't do that? Instead, they go into established lore and change things. It's because they want to take your company down. You know how many people around the world are waiting for a company to stand up and say, no, this is our lore, and you could shove it, right? And you want to say, Amazon, you want to make millions and millions of dollars on this show? Millions and millions. Stand up for your fan base. Don't let these people who do not care about Warhammer 40k. Most Warhammer 40k fans have no problem with POC characters, right? I personally have no problem with, let's say, Black Space Marines, right? You can still have the characteristics of your Primarch, right? And not necessarily be the same color, But, like I said, I'm a year old, so I have no say, right? That's just my opinion. It's just when you start changing these things, these big items, right? And go behind our backs and lie to us is what people don't like. And like I said, man, there's people around the world who are waiting for that company to stand up. You could be that company, Games Workshop. You could be the next MCU for the next 10, 15 years. Right? The ball is in your court. Because I don't want to keep talking about this because, like I said, I've only been doing this a year. And I probably shouldn't be talking about this, but I care about it. I've had the best growth on my channel when I started doing Warhammer 40k content. But anyways, now we're going to get into the good things of Warhammer 40k. So I want to bring some positivity to this, right? Yeah. Now, this is Luetin, the GOAT, right? Luetin09 is his name. If you don't know, this is his channel. I'm going to like this one because I haven't seen this yet. But it's called 40k, Positive Mental Health Aspects. Thank you, Luetin, for doing a video like this because I think, in my opinion, this is the kind of stuff we need to start talking about more. But anyways, so we're going to go ahead and get started in this. Don't worry, I'm not going to bring scripture into this or anything like that. We're just going to listen. And, of course, interrupt because of YouTube and copyright. And real quick, I do want to say it's going to kind of be, the movie theater lines is what I call them. Maybe not the movie theater lines, but it's going to be cut off a little bit. That helps with copyright and stuff like that. But anyways, I'm sorry. Don't care about that. Oop, wrong button. I'm an idiot. In the grim darkness of the far future, there was only war. I had that so wrong at the beginning when I started this. It was kind of funny. I had a guy finally tell me, it's like, what are you doing?
Guys. Now, something a little different today.
Is that okay? No.
But I hope this will be a very positive and constructive video, even though it's dealing with some difficult topics. Now, the topic here is really about coping with depression, as this is something I think is very important to talk about from both an awareness point of view, but I hope that the video today will also help others who might be struggling just with stress or depression or just bigger life issues that they have going on. Now here on the channel I always try to keep things focused on the lore and the miniatures because I know that this is why people are here, but I've also seen, perhaps to my surprise, that my videos actually help people beyond just entertainment. I've had a great many messages from you guys who are all having tough times with your mental health or just needing something to get through that work shift or disconnect from it afterwards, maybe again difficult life problems going on, and this is honestly something I never expected to hear. It's not what I set out to do, because I always think,
again, thank you Luetin for doing this video,
of doing YouTube as simply being an entertainment platform.
Hardly doubt it.
But I now often see regularly messages and comments from people saying how the channel has genuinely helped them through a very difficult period, and this is just honestly both.
And I think creators need to realize this too, right? We help a lot of people cope, right? And that's what Warhammer 40k does. It helps a lot of people cope, right?
Very rewarding, but also very humbling for me to hear this, and I'm obviously very glad that people feel that they can get that benefit from the videos that I'm putting together. It is also for that reason why I want to continue to keep the focus on lore and the hobby of 40k, perhaps other lore in the future as well, as I did with Dread, but at the end of the day we can all agree or we can disagree about different things in life, especially at the moment where things are very complicated in the world, but we can come together in a sharing hobby and a passion for an amazing verse altogether, and that's always what I want the channel to be about. I've also seen more and more people commenting about how I managed to spark their first interest, their ventures into miniatures, and in this video today I hope that you might consider this if you had not already, because you might start to see how there's a lot more to painting miniatures than just that literal process. Now note as well that I probably will follow this up with an occasional video about how you can do simple but effective painting, so I've done a few already, but there are of course tons of great resources out there on YouTube. Lots of individuals, lots of companies have Patreon these days as well to help with painting. I actually have thought about doing this video for a while. I had put out a community post some time ago now, asking people to share their thoughts on this topic, and we'll look at some of those shortly, along with a couple of producers as well that I've reached out to. Now I will know that if you are out there and you're suffering in silence,
but one
do
that
not.
could fit,
I'm not a healthcare worker,
a good decoration,
but you should reach out to a health professional in your area or search for services that can give you support and help. I'll include a few links below this video, but the basic
is always seek help wherever you can find it. You know, I think we neglect our mentals a lot, right? Especially as men, you know, but still, you have to fight, to fight through it, and you got to have ways to do that. Again, Warhammer is one of those ways.
Message is, don't suffer in silence. Don't sit there thinking that there's nobody that can help you. There will always be people that can help. But the real catalyst for making this video came this week when a few people poked me, noting a video made by Winters SEO. Now, Winters is somebody that I have watched for a while. He makes top quality battle reports for 40k, and because, as we know, YouTube can be pretty unstable, they also have a separate site over at deploymentzone.tv where they host their content, basically for the price of a Twitch sub per month. But in relation to this video today, Winters put out on his YouTube channel very recently a very raw and personal video sharing his experiences with depression. And as a part of that, he also went into how 40k and the community has very significantly helped him pull through this. I will also say that you should go and watch.
Does that sound like a bad fan base? Misogynistic, right? Not to me.
I've linked that below. And then just in a kind of wider producer-to-producer sense, you can see how much effort he puts into his battle reports. Sure. The battlefields always look absolutely awesome. The whole style, structure, and editing of the content is very top stuff. I know he works with his friend Liam as well. And I know that many of you would also just find it greatly entertaining. So do go have a look over there. Now, I know Winters also recently laid out some challenges for myself and Valrak. I'll be very happy to get involved. I've thought about it for a while. It would be great to do that at some point. As to where and when, we'll pin that down later. But basically, to Winters from myself, you've created an awesome channel, dude. You've got a huge following, people that love what you do, mate. So just always remember that. But just thinking more broadly, this kind of thing is what we need to be seeing. The days of people keeping everything locked away inside really needs to end. People need to understand there are a great many...
I agree with that, 100%. Now, not be a victim, but, let it out, you know what I mean, per se. Now, I deal with things in a totally different way. I do better taking care of problems myself. But that's me. I've grown that way, and that's just, I do better that way. It doesn't mean everybody else is, right? But anyways.
People out there that are coping with all manners of stress, difficult life problems, ongoing, lifelong bouts of depression. I have very sadly lost close personal friends in my lifetime because they were unable to talk to others about their problems, or they just quite simply couldn't see a way forward. And probably one of the worst things about that is that I'm certain there'll be many people out there who can very much relate to that. Now, I know that many of you will have originally found this channel because of my armor content or my Battlefield, and because of those games I often found myself talking with ex-forces people from around the world. We'd often end up discussing about the kind of pressures that you face in those environments, and so I'm very hopeful as well that if there are some of you out there who are ex-military and never ventured into miniatures, that this today will maybe help you consider checking that out. I've also seen from comments from people they have various family issues. Maybe they've got a parent that they're having to look after, and when people get into an older age, that can be extremely stressful, very difficult, and many people find that doing miniatures, painting, creative things like that can be a good outlet for that stress and the difficulty that it weighs on people there. On the other side of things, it can be just real positive in terms of, I've seen people commenting, talking about how it's been a way for them to get their children away from screens and get people together, some way for parents to bond with their kids over doing creative tasks. So there's a whole...
That's another good thing, isn't it? You got kids, dads, you got mothers and kids doing this, right? Painting, bonding, spending time with each other.
Spectrum of positives that come from doing miniatures. I'm just one person, so all I can hope is that by me putting out my videos, it's helping people somewhere in some small way. In fact, this is exactly one reason why 40k is actually such an amazing pastime, because it is in fact so deep and so immersive that you can completely lose yourself in it and step out of the world for a brief time.
100%.
This is in fact one of the reasons why I came back to it in the first place, and why I've come back to it again and again, because it genuinely helps me with my mental health. And there are periods in the past where I stopped doing 40k for a while, and then I would come back to it, maybe because I was having a difficult time, maybe because I just wanted to do it. But it is a funny thing, it is this strangely addictive, very creative enjoyment about doing miniatures. The narratives of 40k are obviously just one part of it. You also have the miniature side of things, and both of these can be very constructive in helping people who need something to not just distract the mind, but also to focus.
I like the shoulder pads,
build your concentration.
It's
not something you immediately might think of, but building and painting miniatures, learning about the hobby of 40k, steadily acquiring a collection not only of miniatures, but also all the bits and pieces, brushes, tools, paints that come with that. It's a whole hobby in and of itself, just collecting all of the extra bits you need, because you've got to plan out what you need, think about what you want to do with your projects, and over time you might even start adapting models and trying to create things from your just imagination. Now, getting started in painting miniatures is never super easy. There is a learning curve like anything, but honestly, that's not dissimilar to most other hobbies. You'll often have to spend a good amount of time studying, practicing, researching before
I'm excited because I got the supplement Salamanders Codex, so I'm going through that right now. I was going to try to finish it over the weekend, yeah. But anyways, that's an enjoyment in itself, right? Is reading this stuff, There's a few books that are in the pike or on the pike that I'm waiting, to get to read and stuff like that. And it's just a great universe to escape in, right? And companies lose touch in this because of the money, right? But because they don't get down to the deeper levels, right? And plus they don't go through what we go through. Simple fact, right? But anyways.
Or you can truly enjoy a new hobby, and that applies to many things. But that process itself is actually part of the enjoyment, or it is for me, because you're going to be learning and feel that sense of achievement as and when you finally get there. Now, I will just speak about myself a little. Depression has been a very long, heavy, ongoing issue for me, literally decades at this point. but it's something I've come to learn about and deal with, so most of the time I'm pretty able to handle this. There are still times when it can come back up and hit you hard out of nowhere. I'll sometimes feel just kind of blank and emotionless for days or weeks, and other times very extreme opposite. I've also had periods like a few years ago when a fairly major life trauma really triggered my depression in a very bad way. This was a very dark and hopeless time for me for several years. In many ways, I literally kind of felt like my life was just completely over in that time. It took me a very long time to dig myself out of the horrible spiral where every day just felt like a completely pointless waste of time, and I just didn't care about anything anymore. But the important takeaway is I managed to pull myself back up out of this, and I attribute that largely due to focusing hard on my work, and I also say with complete sincerity, rediscovering and painting miniatures. This was probably one of the most constructive things for me. Daily exercise is also very positive for your mood, just good for you as well. Even if that means just going out for an hour's walk every day, that will help you get out of the house.
Sun gives you vitamin C, right? The good vitamin C, you can get these vitamin C, yes, that does help, but you really need sun. Helps your mood, helps everything, get your blood flowing. Great stuff, man. And it makes you think, there's green grass. There's still good, right? But anyways.
Go and get some fresh air. And then, of course, perhaps most importantly was having somebody to talk to. Now, people always say having good friends and family around you is the most important thing for sharing your problems.
True.
Now, for some people, that might be true, but I've often found this not to be the case. And as I say, everybody's different.
Good point.
For me personally, I think not so much, because you might not want to burden them, or you might just not really want to talk about it with them. And so this is why having others to talk to is so important. Now, I'm lucky because through gaming, I've known so many people around the world over the years, so I have a friend who I met many, many years ago, and that disconnection between my circle of real-life family and friends helped me to vent and share without feeling like it was something that I really needed to worry about. And it also helps, of course, that that was a person that I trust and I've known for a long time. But I say it as no small thing, that I'm sure that them listening to me when I needed really helped me through that most difficult time. And I think that without that means to share my thoughts, I really would have struggled. Now, you might say to yourself, well, Luetin, what if I don't have people like that I can just reach out and speak to? Like I said, there's always groups, charities, different services you can speak to. There will always be a person that you can speak to who you can speak to anonymously outside of your circle of family and friends. So again, make sure to do this if you need it. The thing is, though, that depression, stress, mental health issues can affect different people in different ways, so comparing yourself with others is not the way to go. There may be things that we all share, but we're all very different, and so as I noted before, you should speak to a healthcare professional who will be able to help you with what you specifically need. You might need to try some different things to find out what fits you, what helps you the best way. But the most important thing is that you're doing something about it, as opposed to not doing anything about it. Because
yes, that is actually a good point. We have to try to do something about it, you know what I mean? And actually try to apply. A lot of people, they'll get that good oomph or whatever, but then they don't apply it. And you got to have discipline, let's be honest. If you want to survive in life, you have to have discipline, or you'll be led way down the road, trust me. I know.
You always want to be moving forward, making some progression, making some small gains every day. Now, that's the difficult stuff talked about, but what about the positive and the constructive aspect? Or quite honestly, just miniatures in general is an amazing way to focus your mind down. Now, I would almost say it's on par with something like meditation, because you become absolutely focused in on what you're doing, and you can remove yourself from a lot of your other thoughts. It takes a very high level of concentration. Not to mention, you'll also be needing to learn new techniques, experiment, and work out how you want to approach a specific miniature. I personally even find the process of just cleaning the plastic and building a miniature to be quite therapeutic. I often listen to music, to podcasts, audiobooks, movies, TV shows whilst I'm painting, but I'm often not really listening. They're just kind of background noise. So it's a very, very relaxing process for me. And now more than ever is something I think that everybody could get something positive from. As I noted earlier, I've known many people who were ex-forces who found this as well, but I also know many people who have suffered just with their own mental health difficulties, and that miniatures can be a very good outlet for that. Now, one part of miniatures that is very constructive is that in a world where things can feel wildly out of control, with miniatures, you're in control of all the decisions. What the colors should be, maybe how to adapt the model, the poses if you compose it, what environment you want to design the base, and so on. Minis, though, they allow you this small space where you're fully in control, and also there is the very rewarding aspect of it in terms of seeing your own progression. Now, as I've shared before, there are wild leaps in my own progression in painting miniatures, which I always seek to highlight when I see people saying that miniatures is very difficult. The one on the left would be mine. Or they think I'll never be able to achieve these standards, I can never get up to those levels that I've seen. Well, that's how I felt for the longest time. But through a few different experiences, I was able to greatly improve my painting. To now, I'm at a very, very happy level with my painting. But in relation to that, there should also never be anyone telling you how to paint only a certain way or doing a certain thing. I've often ranted about drilling barrels before. But it's always my hope that people realize that there's humor in there, okay? I don't expect everybody to literally do it. I don't have any expectation like that. At the end of the day, how you put together your miniatures is up to you. What you want to do or don't want to do is up to you, because that is the whole point of them. Now, similarly to that, if another painter or a professional painter, and they say, look, this is the only way to do it. This is the right way to do it. If you're doing it any other way, you're wrong. Nonsense. The right way is the way you choose to do it, and however you want it to be, however way you want it to look. And it is absolutely as simple as that. I love to look at other people's miniatures. I love how they've done this little style here. I wonder if I can achieve that. But you're not looking at theirs and thinking, oh my god, mine's so bad compared to them. No, that's not what it is. It's just how you frame that perspective. You should be looking for making small improvements, small new movements in knowledge. But always at the end of the day...
Oh, I want to close in on that. That's 100% right there, right? Keep making small improvements. That's what you need to focus on. You're making these small improvements, so you're getting better and better and better, right? Anyways.
It's done just as you want it to be. And then additionally, there's a lot more to miniatures than just painting, obviously. Some people might want to then get into actually playing the tabletop game, but there are a great many people who just have no interest or maybe no time to do that. For them, the process of painting and building is a fantastic de-stressing tool, or a means by which to, as I say, focus the mind, to gain some stability and clarity each day. And this is one of the most constructive things. It's also a hobby which you do not need to be online to do. You can be completely away from all of the stuff going on online. Just put on some music, forget about everything else, pick a favorite show, background noise, listen away whilst you're working on your minute.
Oh no. Yeah.
There should be no obligation to sharing your models online. Good to do that if you want to do that, if you want to get feedback from other people, if you just want to put it out there and say, hey, look what I did today. Go ahead, go for that, absolutely. But that's not what it's about. If that helps you, that's great, but that's not what it's about. It's just about giving yourself some time, some space, some focus, disconnecting, distracting your mind, and really giving yourself a way to just put everything else to one side for a time.
And I want to add this. Rest. Okay. Bodybuilding. You don't hear too much about it, but the most important thing in bodybuilding is rest, right? You don't grow without rest. So, anyways.
Now, I'm sure that at this point, some people will say, well, okay, I really want to get into this, but where do I begin? Well, I will try and follow up with something to that end pretty soon. Suffice to say, though, that it need not be daunting. You can start very simply with a small box of units. There's going to be loads of people that say, oh, you need to get this, you need to get that, No, you don't need to do that. You can get a basic box of paints, a basic box of models, and I'll try and actually show people that pretty soon. Now, just to finish up today, I recently reached out to some other producers, and some of the replies that people left on my community post that I made crazily over 6 months ago now. Now, I'll note that on that community post as well, I did specifically ask for people's permission to include their stories in this video because they're obviously sharing personal experiences. I'm also sorry if I didn't select your comment here just because there were so many, but thank you very much for everybody who contributed. So to start off with, Russ says, like some others have posted, I also suffered from anxiety and depression for most of my adult life. I'm 40 now. I got into 40k right at the beginning of 2nd edition. That's when I got into it as well. And he says I've drifted in and out of the hobby. Even though I didn't play for most of 5th through 7th edition, I still kept up with the hobby. As I was getting into my late 30s, I realized that I had no close friends and was getting very lonely. I decided that when 8th came out, I was going to be this big change. I was going to get out of the house, get into the hobby again. Since then, I've had to wrestle with my mental health, rocky family life, my mother-in-law going through 2 types of cancer to a potential divorce, even suffering from a full breakdown where I couldn't work. The only thing that has really helped me take my mind off everything is Warhammer 40k. I can get lost in not just building and playing, but I love the lore. Channel's one of my favorites. Thanks very much, man. I even got my wife and son into the hobby, making it a part of our family. Vincent K said,
did you hear that? Okay.
For some years now, I've lived with agoraphobia. It's peaked and troughed, but it's never really gone away. Honestly, I don't think it ever will. This might seem weird, but I've come to accept that. Not through therapy, though of course such things are vital, or anything of that flavour. Without a shadow of a doubt, I can attribute the lion's share of my coping with acute anxiety and all of it.
They didn't need to be pandered to his wife and children, right? They didn't need to be pandered to.
It entails to hobbying, knowing that at the end of the day, or whenever things are getting difficult to cope with, I can break out a kit and build a storm fiend. It's that little something that makes the lows a little bit easier. I can't easily take a walk down the road to think, but I can explore the mortal realms. I can dig out the brush, mix up some skin tone, let everything else slide off my back like Termagant Ica down Baneblade front armor. Miniatures have become a key source of achievement in a life where any marked progress can have very limited permanence. A good few weeks can all too easily be torn apart by one mental blip. And that's not easy, I'll tell you, but the blow is lessened through looking across my collection. Those storm fiends I painted aren't going anywhere. And it's things like that, the stability, the soundness that comes from knowing no matter what claws at me, trying to drag me down deeper into an anxiety hole, there'll be a bunch of models reminding me that no matter what, I can progress. Mutaka says 13 years in the army, medically retired for mental health issues and physical injuries just being too much to endure anymore, and in the 2 years since I've gotten out, I've been to individual group therapy, run the gamut at the VA trying to get things straightened out. A month ago I decided to pick up...
Thank you for your service, Mutaka, whatever country that you're from. I'm guessing you're an American because that's Detroit Red Wings there, I do believe, right? Or Montreal? No, that's not the Red Wing. I think that's anyways, I'm not a big hockey fan, so anyways, that he might be Canadian too. But anyways, thank you for your service.
Some models and paint and get into the hobby. I've always just been a reader of the books and lore around Warhammer 40k, so I was surprised how much of the act of building and painting calmed and focused me. Usually I just put one of your playlists on, listen to the lore whilst I experiment and play with the paint, learning how to make it look nice. I can sit down, start painting, look up, and then you see it's 3 AM. And that's okay, because I can barely sleep anyway. The thing is, I'm not ruminating about any of the things my mind tends to push to the front whilst I'm doing this. It's very similar to meditation with the added benefit of the tangible rewards and easily reachable goals. Next we've got Maurice, who says, this hobby and community has saved my life. When I was first diagnosed with several chronic diseases, my life did start to spiral. The thought that I would never have back the life I had once put me into a deep depression. Started to drink heavily. Nearly 5 years ago I got back into painting, which very quickly grew on me. I had something to spend money on, and that wasn't being pissed away. Via the community, I found new friends, places to go. I had a reason to get out of bed each day. I had goals to reach and to focus and drive, and the focus aspect was what helped me the most. I stopped diving down and started to put my time and energy into something that became a passion. Throughout the last few years...
There you go. Right? Little by little, keeping yourself disciplined, making yourself get out there, and he had a goal. Warhammer 40k helped with that.
My health has declined, relationships ended, I had people to lean on to give me support and words of wisdom. Warhammer saved my life, and I'll never forget that. Volatile said, I hadn't done anything hobby related for several years, but after moving back with my parents to help with an aging father with pretty bad memory issues, I took it up again. Assembled painting stuff initially, but now I scratch build entire vehicles, both Games Workshop replicas and custom designs. I use it as a way to have quiet time and alone time after he goes to bed. It can be very taxing to help look after a family member who barely remembers the last 15 minutes, having to repeat yourself innumerable times every day and listen to them say the same thing every half hour. I also have various mental issues, and modelling has been a nice option to have as a creative outlet. I'm often not always in the correct frame of mind for various activities, or it becomes deathly cold in the winter and the ice, snow limits your outdoor activities. So another option besides 2D painting and drawing is another great option. I actually haven't played in several years, but that really doesn't concern me. I find it more than fun enough to build and paint things, and the option to play is always there as I keep the stuff that I build. Elder Mark says, I got diabetes at 40, Crohn's at 42, and now heart attack at 45. What's kept me from just going and throwing in the towel is this hobby, which I'm new, and says my videos as well, because he loves the lore segments. Seven Below says, I just rediscovered the hobby after a 10-year break. It's done absolute wonders for my depression. Nero says, my story isn't nearly as profound as many others here. I'm pretty new.
And real quick, as I forgot to say, I do regular biblical videos on Mondays. And then every Thursday is a Warhammer 40k lore series. And then Sundays is the reaction series. So I forgot to say that at the beginning, but I'll put it in the comments. Anyways, I just like to let people know
I've had models
that,
for almost 2 years, but rarely
into.
get the chance to play since I still don't have the points. But I've made a lot of friends through the game and the lore. It unites a lot of people and builds bonds, and that can definitely help a lot of people. Matt says, my brother and I played 40k when 2nd edition came out, so around 1993-ish. I stopped a few years later. It wasn't until early this year our dad died from cancer, and my brother spent a lot of time staying with me. He revealed that he still collected it, and it relit the fire in me, gave us something to talk about. 40k really helped us both through a very traumatic time. Then Eleanor, who says, I'm only in the building painting side of minis at the moment and I'm still fairly new to it. I think the big draw mental health wise for mini painting is that it is away from screens. Screens take up so much of my life and I feel like we're always multitasking. It's honestly nice to have something that is very focused, physical art form. I really enjoy mixing up the paints on the palette, choosing which brushes to use. It's the very physical, somewhat tactile nature of it. I also think mini painting can seem at first something like a contradiction when talking about mental health, most especially when you're first starting. I've definitely felt some pretty decent stress and anxiety when painting, but it will then also give you the opportunity to tackle those problems. I find what has also stressed me out are the judgments about my skills from my own brain. It can be really daunting with such a wealth of talented people showing their minis. You can have thoughts of, I'll never be that good, so why should I bother? But having such high quality inspiring minis available and encouraging helpful community has helped me to let painting be a place where I can work through those thoughts. And that lesson has been helpful to my mental health in more ways than just related to minis. Painting has
Amen to that.
allowed me this space to be creative, but not to the point where I feel overwhelmed by it. I think the way I approach the way I feel about painting translates to how I also view some of my mental health issues, and that as long as I'm trying, showing up, or sitting down to paint, I'm making progress, and that progress shouldn't be compared to everyone else's. We're all at different stages, but as long as I'm getting something done, that's enough for me to be proud of. DK says, I think there is certainly something to be said for miniature painting with helping keep the mind focused and also giving a sort of positive reinforcement as you improve. For me, I can specifically remember after painting my first one, a rubric marine, I felt satisfied with it, but my mind immediately started spinning to how I could make the next one better. What new techniques could I try to overcome hurdles I discovered on my first attempt? What other figures, paints, and mediums could I experiment with to be better ready for the next project? And then, when all of it comes together and you see how much you've improved, that all of the trial and error paid off, there's not a better or more uplifting feeling in the world. Sure, it might not win an award, but I could see how much better it was and where I was improving, and that can absolutely be crucial for one's mental health. Seeing your hard work actually pay off and your own skill set pushed forward by your own dedication, your drive and focus is invaluable. And then lastly, Oregon...
I can't say it better. That's 100% facts.
Solitude, who says, I can very much speak on the therapeutic aspect of the hobby. I served in a military branch from 1998 to 2008 with high amounts of combat. I find that dioramas, models, and the exploration of colours help me contend with the occasional volatility of post-traumatic stress disorder whilst not ignoring the essence of grimdark and how I can draw on that from experiences that were better not experienced. I've brought other people into the hobby by showing them how painting the minis help with finding the appeasement of certain stresses and how it is a non-toxic form of therapy for exploring some of the darker places in the mind without delving too deep since it's science fiction. Basically, I'm turning combat and non-combat veterans into 40k material and subject experts, nerds who can literally fight and destroy. Of course, the lore helps and we all enjoy discussing the strategies and tactics to apply paint to plastic when we meet. Thank you for recognizing what this hobby can be beyond the immediate storyline and tabletop. And I think that is the best place to finish up, because I'm sure this is something that many people have talked about, but as Winters said recently when he shared his experiences, that got me back onto thinking about this when I'd mentioned it, like I said, over 6 months ago, that Warhammer 40,000, it can actually be a lot more than seeming like it's just a hobby. There is so much to it, there is so many positive, constructive aspects to it, and it can genuinely really help people out. So I will just finish today by simply saying thank you to everybody who contributed their thoughts about 40k and its constructiveness in their own lives. I should also say a huge thanks to all of you guys who are watching. I'm always so grateful to you guys who enjoy the videos that I put together, and I'm off right now to go work on the next one. So as always, I will say thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been an interesting and helpful video for you, and I will see you in the next one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Warhammer 40k lore GOAT right there. So I wanted to bring some positivity to the community because it's been volatile for a little bit. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and thank you for watching.